The aftermath of a massacre at a mosque in the city of Bambari in the Central African Republic. At least 12 bodies are visible on the ground. A woman and a child are among the dead. Dozens of civilians had taken shelter in the Al-Taqwa mosque that day, after witnesses say Russian mercenaries and government troops came hunting for rebel fighters. Abdullahi was inside the mosque, but instead of finding sanctuary, he told CNN they became targets.
The gendarmerie and the Russians asked us to take the women and children out of the mosque. 6 of us walked out with our hands raised. They searched us and found nothing. We hadn't even gone 5 meters when they started shooting at us. 4 people died, 1 jumped a wall, and I was shot in the right foot.
That same day, Jabrila told CNN her 15-year-old son was killed by Russians firing from a helicopter. When her husband went out to find him, he was shot down too.
My husband was buried together with my 15-year-old son. When the burial was over, we couldn't even say a word. I was crying. My children also came next to me, wailing. It was the Russians who killed my husband, leaving me with children in pain.
A confidential UN report found that abuses were carried out on both sides in Bambari, but that the Russians may have committed war crimes, and it does not appear to be an isolated incident. Over several months, CNN and the independent investigative group the Sentry have obtained testimony and documents implicating Russian contractors deployed to train the Central African Army in a wide range of atrocities during fighting between government and rebel forces, including mass shootings, torture, and the burning of villages. Sorcha McLeod is on the UN Working Group on Mercenaries. In March, it sent details of alleged abuses to the Russian and Central African Republic governments. Grave human rights abuses, including rape, summary executions, targeted killings, torture, forced disappearances, murders, and other abuses. I mean, we're talking about war crimes here, potentially, are we not?
Yes, we are. We are seeing some of the most serious human rights violations and humanitarian law violations, and we're seeing them on a widespread scale. People on the ground are absolutely terrified.
It is a stark contrast from the story Russia tells. In this recent movie, Tourist, funded by a company associated with the Russian mercenaries, they are lauded as heroic defenders who have liberated Central Africa. In reality, Russia's presence in this war-torn, mineral-rich nation has always been controversial, even as it has ballooned from 170 contracted trainers in 2017 to around 2,300 now, according to a UN document obtained by the Sentry, with more than 30 bases spread out across the country. 39-year-old teacher Nemery shows our camera the scars from wounds he says were inflicted by Russian mercenaries at an outpost outside Bambari. They took us to the Russian base, tied us up with rope, and started to torture us. They even used a bayonet to injure my left foot deeply, he says. Their actions were evil and barbaric.
We are seeing a pattern of behaviour by these Russian private contractors. This has happened in other countries. We've seen it, for example, in relation to Libya, where Russian private contractors were involved in a variety of human rights violations, in a variety of international humanitarian law violations.
But for the victims of these alleged crimes, there is little hope for justice. Private military contractors are technically illegal in Russia, and so don't officially exist. And many locals live in fear of repercussions from a shadowy and unaccountable force. Clarissa Ward, CNN.